is back in session. 90 minutes of knowledge ahead on NFL Countdown.
Milton College may no longer exist, but I'm still an honorary member of Bristol University.
6 teams in 8 years. Dave Craig schools us on opening day quarterback changes. Many new faces. And some old faces in new places. Dark skies have followed the Cowboys. Troy Aikman hopes they've learned their lesson after another off-season under the microscope.
It's slow. This is a slow play.
Nothing slow about the healing process of John Elway. A torn tendon has made him even stronger, as Denver looks to ease the pain of another postseason disappointment. Jerry Rice is never satisfied with anything but straight A's. How can he get better? The 49ers have the answer. Get number 80 downfield.
I'm a firm believer in it. I think that to all my students, and I stress that tremendously.
Dion's in football mode. The Oilers are out of Houston. Kevin Green with the Niners. Drew Bledsoe's without the Big Tuna. That's because he's one of 11 faculty changes for the fall semester. Changes that include 2 old-school professors returning to teaching after long sabbaticals. Can they relate to today's youth?
You can't put pressure on them.
The pressure's on for the Packers to repeat and for 29 other teams to make the great net on the season debut of NFL Countdown. Hey, a new place to play, huh? Are you ready for some football? We are, and let us welcome you to the world premiere of NFL Countdown in the month of August. I'm Chris Berman. We got 14 new starting quarterbacks. We got 11 new head coaches. We got 2 new uniforms. We even have a new stadium for us to play. You guys bring everything. There is one constant, however. The tenured professors here at Bristol University, our 11th year together. Professor of History, Thomas Jackson.
Thank you very much.
The Professor of Political Science, in his 10th year with us, Joe Theismann. In his 3rd year with us, in the slot this time, the Professor of Media Relations, Sterling Sharp.
Exactly.
And the 7th year, the Professor, maybe Teacher's Assistant of Journalism, our man, Chris Morton.
Thank you, Dean.
You guys have your textbooks here?
They'll be arriving.
Wait a minute.
They're a little late in shipment. I'm responsible for the books. I'll get them
Blame the UPS strike, all right? I shall bring my books to class. All right, well, folks, it is kickoff weekend, and we are ready to kick it off everywhere in our Bristol University laboratories across America. We start our first class off with class. Here's Leslie Visser.
Hi, Chris. Expectations are high here at Three Rivers Stadium. Greg Lloyd is healthy, and Cordell Stewart is happy to be starting at quarterback. How will he do against the best cornerback in the NFL? I'll have more on the Cordell Stewart-Deion Sanders matchup, plus take you on a walk down Penny Lane.
In New England, it's week 1 of the Pete Carroll era, but the defending AFC champions may be without Willie McGinnis due to game-time decision with a sore hamstring. As for the Chargers, Pro Bowl linebacker Junior Seau did not even make the trip.
I'm Mark Malone in Buffalo, where all-pro defensive end Bruce Smith has agreed to new contract terms. I'll have an update, and we'll take a look at Todd Collins as he leads the new-look Bills offense into the post-Jim Kelly era as the Buffalo Bills take on the Minnesota Vikings.
Here at the Meadowlands, the Giants would kick off 97 with the NFL's youngest team. The Eagles will be without 3 key starters: wide receiver Christy Jones, linebacker Darren Smith, and cornerback Bobby Taylor, although Taylor will see some action today.
An inauspicious start for professional football here in Tennessee. Only about 30,000 are expected at the Liberty Bowl for the Oilers' debut. In fact, head coach Joe Bugle said his Raiders might have the home field advantage. There's a lot of apathy in Memphis for this transient team, as you can tell by the headline in today's morning paper, Our Dream, Their Team.
In Denver, 2 big stories today as the Broncos host the Chiefs, while quarterback John Elway enters his 15th season after a remarkable recovery from a torn bicep. The Derek Thomas-Neil Smith matchup may never take place because a tricep injury may keep Thomas on the sideline. Chris?
Hi, Michael. Thank you. We're back to everybody at the ballparks in just a moment. Now, guys, think back to last year. Last year this time, the Green Bay Packers were hoping to join Dallas and San Francisco as the big boys. This year, the Packs stand alone. By the way, if you're adding it up, regular season and postseason, just last 2 years, Brett Favre, 90 touchdown passes. I mean, that's very Montana-esque. Mike Holmgren says we may be better right now at this stage of the season than we were last year. question. I mean, everyone's chasing Green Bay, right? I mean, they're at top,
Yes.
right, Tom?
Yeah, they are definitely the favorites, but I think that Brett Favre and every other quarterback in this league will be a victim to some extent of the defensive choice, the zone blitz, where you bring people in volume, you bring them in waves of very athletic front sevens against those big, huge offensive linemen and force the quarterback, because he is not used to looking at defensive tackles, defensive ends, drop back in coverage, force him to make a correct first read.
The philosophy on offense has also changed too, Tommy. Teams are going back to the old school way of football. Lined up with a tailback at 7 yards deep, a fullback that will carry the ball only 4 times a year, a la Barry Sanders in Detroit, having a fullback in front of him. Power running game to combat the zone blitz. You don't care where people lined up, where they end up, as long as they're whole for your tailback. That means that if the old school 3 yards in a cloud of dust is back, the old school coaches can't be far behind.
Well, let's talk about coaches. Urgency. That's the key word in the NFL. And why do you think we had 11 coaching changes after last season? How would you like to be Pete Carroll right now? Not only does he inherit a young AFC championship team in New England, but the man who took that team to the Super Bowl, Bill Parcells, is now a division rival. A division, by the way, where Carroll has 3 coaching giants to compete against: Parcells, Jimmy Johnson, and Marv Levy.
Urgency may be the word for coaches. Emergency is the word for quarterbacks as far as the starters go. When you look around the league, Mark Brunell was the only quarterback last year who took every snap. So what coaches decided to do is they weren't going to take chances on unproven backups. They went out and got themselves some veterans, like in Washington where Hostetler's there, like in Cincinnati where Boomer Esiason is, or like in Seattle where Warren Moon is. Now, Chris, anytime a quarterback goes down with those teams and those veterans, coaches have to feel like, hey, we don't have to give up a game. We have a guy who can play, and we know we can get the job done.
Well, it's hard to make it through the whole season. Yeah, I found that out. That's why we have Mike Tirico, a high-paid backup quarterback.
Very
you know?
good.
Well, what a way to begin week 1 with the sound of one of the best football matchups ever. Cowboys at Steelers. It's jumping a little bit, doesn't it? Pittsburgh comes in flying under Cordell Stewart, a perfect 5-0 preseason. They scored 155 points in August, the most in the league. Cowboys have the best lifetime opening day record, 27-9-1. But talk about history. Remember back to Super Bowl 10. The defending champion Steelers trailed Dallas 10-7 in the fourth quarter. Terry Bradshaw and company rallied for the 21-17 win. 2 TDs for Bradshaw, 82 yards for Franco Harris. Then, Super Bowl 13. Bradshaw and the Steelers beat Dallas again. This time, 35-31. 3 touchdown passes, 2 to John Stallworth, 1 here to Lynn Swann. Terry had over 300 yards passing. Another Super Bowl. Now, just 2 years ago, 10-piece, Super Bowl 30. It was Dallas's turn to win a tight game. MVP Larry Brown picked off Neil O'Donnell twice. The Cowboys won at 27-17. It was the crowning moment of the Jerry Jones, Barry Switzer era. But lots has happened since then in Big D, both on the field and, more significantly, off the field. The image cleanup begins today for them, hopefully. Back to Three Rivers and Leslie Visser.
Hi, Boomer. Welcome, gentlemen, to a new season. As Marv Levy says before every kickoff, where would you rather be than right here, right now? Well, Marv's happy in Buffalo, and we have a great one here. The return of Deion Sanders, who will start against the artist formerly known as Slash.
That makes the game fun. Is Cordell going to try Deion? Is he going to kid it? Is he going to hide himself? Is he going to dance? Yes, he is.
I'm not going to hold my throws away because of Deion Sanders on that side. You know, due respect to Deion, but hey, we have to do what we have to do to get the ball down the field.
Sanders, who did not get another cortisone shot for that bulging disc in his lower back, says it doesn't matter that he hasn't had much time to prepare.
It's not really a playbook for me. I think they just stick something on the wall in a tack to say, you got your man. And I say, okay. So I'm fine.
There's no doubt in my mind he could play baseball and steal bases and do what he do with the best of them and come out there, and I guarantee you he will play corner like nobody's seen corner play.
As for Stewart, although it's his first NFL start at quarterback, he claims he isn't inexperienced. And although he'll wear a light brace on his left knee, he says he isn't interested in showing off his running skills.
How much I run? If it was up to me, 0 times. You know, if I have to run, I will. Don't get me wrong. I will if I have to, but you know, I just want to go out there and have fun and just let the game come to me.
I think the thing that can't be lost in it is this is his 3rd year. He's not a rookie. He knows his offense very well.
This may be the greatest face-off since John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. Deion, who may also see action at punt returner, against one of the most exciting players in the NFL. Boomer, we're about to witness the debut of Air Cordell.
All right, Leslie, thank you. We'll be back to you in a moment. Now, Joe, to me, I'm going to be on record here. Cordell Stewart is the most intriguing player in the league this year. Now, he obviously poses problems for defenses like
Well, for example, his athletic ability. Last year when Cordell Stewart lined up on the football field for the Steelers, you didn't know where he was, and you weren't quite sure what he was going to do. Now this year at the quarterback position, you know where you can find him, but you're still not quite sure what he's going to do. And I think that's the problem for Dallas's front. They can't just go right to the wall to try and hunt him down in the pocket. They have to be a little cautious in their pass rush, which is going to give Cordell an opportunity. I'll show you here on our telestrator. You see the way the defensive linemen are positioned here as the Eagles try and rush Cordell? They're going to try and move the pocket back to him. Now, that's fine, all well and good. Normally, if you had a pocket quarterback, you could go right after him, no problem, except for one thing. Cordell Stewart has the ability to find holes and take off down the field. That's going to be the biggest problem for Dallas. As you see him scramble around here against the Eagles, makes a move. We know William Thomas can run, barely gets a hand on him. Cordell Stewart's in a situation where he wouldn't even be down in two-hand touch in the way he runs the football today, Boomer.
Well, we know he runs. We know he throws the bomb. What about, Joe, the 10 or 12-yard out? Either making the throw or knowing when not to make it. You think he's good enough there?
Yeah, I do, and that was the thing that I was most impressed with during the preseason. Here was a guy who really was cast into the role for the first time, but yet when he had to make those touch passes, when he had to do something special with the football, like dunk it off, he had no problem with it. I think he's a complete quarterback. I tend to agree with you. This is going to be a real intriguing situation.
You're in a new area here. You're good as a game show host.
Thank you very much.
I mean, I think you have a new career ready. You see? We have a new playpen. We get all sorts of toys now. We have plenty ahead here on our 90-minute NFL Countdown, including Cowboys' main gunslinger saying it's time to polish the star or else.
I'm just doing whatever I feel needs to be done in order for us to be successful. And if that this year means being more vocal in certain situations, then that's what I'm doing.
Bicep surgeries made John Elway's arm better and stronger than ever. We'll have that amazing scenario. And speaking of better than ever, wait till you see Jerry Rice this season. Tom sat with the incomparable Niners, who has a new teammate. As Kevin Green tipped the balance of the NFC West, we are just kicking the bomb off.
My name is Jim, and I am the beer man, and I'm proud to sell this Coors Light. So please do not call me beer dude. Don't yell beer jockey, barley boy, or suds buddy, and I'll be happy to pour you a frost brewed Coors Light. Stay away from Brew Brother, Captain Cup, and Sir Pour-A-Lot, and you'll get your Rocky Mountain refreshment faster than you could say Lager Lugger. I am Beer Man.
Hey, beer stud.
Coming. I-24. Oh, 73. I-16. Bingo! I got bingo!
Get real.
Logo Athletic, authentic team apparel.
Ready for the next game? All right, let me see those game faces.
We need love.
You're out here to play baseball, right?
We need encouragement. This is trying to see a lot to play for. We need inspiration. We need rides!
Introducing used vehicles reconditioned, warranted, and ready for life. GM certified.
I like being in control. With this new Dinerex, I control the cause of my dandruff every day.
New Dinerex Advanced Formula. Its medicine doesn't just treat the symptoms. It controls a leading cause of dandruff called Peel Valley.
Now that's serious control.
New Dinerex Advanced Formula.
In my opinion, the single most important thing you can do for your car is to change the oil regularly. And most automotive technicians recommend changing your oil every 3,000 miles. I've been to Jiffy Lube, and I like their service. So if you don't do anything else for your car, get your oil changed every 3,000 miles. And I recommend Jiffy Lube.
And Jiffy Lube offers Pennzoil.
Jiffy Lube, America's favorite oil change.
NFL Countdown is brought to you by Nike, who encourages you to participate in the lives of America's youth.
Good morning once again, everybody. Before we move on, we join the world in mourning the death of Princess Diana, killed in a car crash last night in Paris. Our thoughts are with her family, especially her two sons, William and Harry. She was pure class. All of us are very sorry. It is a brave new world for the San Francisco 49ers. Garner head coach George Seifert, his 2 Super Bowl wins. Bill Walsh's presence is now just a whisper. Steve Mariucci is now the head coach. with a resume quite different than his predecessors. But the Niners will point out that once upon a time, similar offensive genius Bill Walsh had never been an NFL head coach, and he did okay. The Niners, who have won 10 or more games each of the last 14 seasons, are at the big sombrero to play the new-look Buccaneers, who have lost 10 or more games in 13 of the last 14 seasons. But they have new uniforms. They won 5 of their last 7 last year under Tony Dungy, and they're on their way. Tommy, though, but speaking of new look, Kevin Green, what, been a Niner, what, 4 or 5 days?
Well, unfortunately, this is a situation we're going to see more of as the big money era continues. An organization and a player reach an impasse and have a parting of the ways. In a nutshell, that's what happened between Kevin Green and the Carolina Panthers.
Highly productive for him last year, very much so, and I was just so underpaid that it wasn't even funny. Now, you know me, I'm not a man about money. That's not why I play this game. I play for the love and the heart and desire and just the physical part of it and winning. But I got to do that for a team that's treating me at least fair. It just wasn't even fair, and I'm like, I can't do it. And I begged them to release me. Basically, I asked them, just release me. Don't let me go out like this, and don't put me on some failure to report list and keep me on this all year long and make me come back next year and play again for y'all. I can't do that. I'm going to have to retire. So Carolina actually did me a favor, in which I thanked them for. They knew I couldn't play for that. But I'm here with a great organization. And I have despised this organization for years because they have consistently hammered my butt every team I've been on. And I tell you what, it's kind of funny because I look back and I had so much respect for these guys because we could never, when I was a Ram, we never consistently beat them for 8 years. 3-4-4-3 make a difference? Not the way they're going to use me here, I think. I mean, they know my limitations. I mean, I'm 252. I don't think they're going to line me in front of a 310-pound offensive tackle and say two-gap him. I think they know that they have to play me in space and distance and let me move and work and do my things that I do. And I think the coaches are smart. They're going to put me in a position to help this team. I don't think they're bringing me in here just to say, okay, Kevin, you're a square peg here, fit in this round hole.
You know, this is a product of the big business end of the NFL where a player as passionate as Kevin Green and an organization as good as the Carolina Panthers somehow can't come to terms more.
Yeah, Tommy, Kevin's underpaid, but he was an unrestricted free agent. He chose not to honor a contract he signed last year with the Carolina Panthers, which, by the way, that team wants his $300,000 in fine money. They have sent a letter to Kevin asking him to pay it. 49ers president Carmen Policy told me last night that he thinks that when the Panthers waived Kevin, they waived their right to collect the fine. I think this ends up before the league arbitrator, also known as the special master.
Well, they should have brought a special master in to look at the San Francisco defense because of everybody's been running the football at them off tackle all preseason. Kevin Green will do a fine job when passing, but what happens when they run? You look at the Carolina, the flip side of it is Lamar Latham and Sam Mills, the power structure of this defense, lost a good friend. They talk about it's going to be a while before they can get him out of their minds. He will always be in their hearts. I think Ronaldo Turnbull, the pickup from the Saints, are doing an adequate job because he and Dom Capers and that defense, the entire scheme, very familiar.
Yeah, but still, you know how exciting it is to have Kevin Green in the locker room, just like the Niners had Dion in '94. Sure. Plus, they're excited about getting a look at that Carolina defensive playbook because God knows in the 2 years they haven't figured it out yet. When we return, back to Pittsburgh for more on the dawning of the Cordell Stewart era as NFL Countdown roars on. And the Mortimer. He'll talk with Troy Aikman, who refused to take last season's Cowboy hangover lying down.
Sunday night, NFL on TNT.
One that was resume. With a reception in each of his first 9 games, the 12-year veteran will have caught at least one pass in 184 consecutive contests, surpassing the number set by Art Monk. While Rice is the all-touchdown leader with 165, Marcus Allen leads the way in career rushing touchdowns. But his reign figures to be short-lived, in part to Emmitt Smith, who's remarkably averaged a rushing touchdown a game in his first 7 years in the league. Staying on the ground, the Lions' Barry Sanders can vault into 3rd place all-time by rushing for 1,015 yards this season. The quartet he would pass includes future Hall of Famer Marcus Allen, and current Cantonites Franco Harris, Jim Brown, and Tony Dorsett. But he's got a long way to go to catch all-time leader Walter Payton, 5,001 yards to be exact. And finally, ex-Cowboy place kicker Chris Boniel, now an Eagle, has connected on his last 27 field goal attempts, 5 short of eclipsing the league record set by former Viking Fuad Rebees just 2 years ago. When we return, the Eagles and Giants, is there light at the end of the tunnel for Dave Brown? The return of the Jedi on the sidelines, Dick Vermeil and Mike Ditka. It's only fitting they open up against each other. That story in a minute.
Everybody knows the old rules of photography.
I hope that's the right film for Drift Sunlight.
But new Kodak Gold Max breaks them all.
Using the same...
It's the Eagles at the Giants, a team that Ray Rhodes has beaten all 4 times he has played, primarily because the Philly defense has scored as many touchdowns as the Giants offense in those games, 2 each. Rhodes is a supposed kinder and gentler Ricky Waters, but the Giants have a new direction. Jim Fossil, the new coach. Today he celebrates his 48th birthday with some new juice. His top 2 picks on offense, wide receiver Ryan Hilliard, running back Tiki Barber, they get started. Let's head to the Meadowlands. Give a big countdown. Welcome to Ron Jaworski. Jaws?
Well, thank you, Chris. It's great to be part of the team. For the past 2 seasons, Ricky Waters has turned in arguably the best back-to-back seasons in Eagles history. But those seasons have been marked by turmoil over Ricky's role in the Eagles offense. As Ricky enters the final year of his contract, he says those squabbles are behind him.
And there were things that weren't said in the past and that they're being said now, so things are clear. Everything, you know, whenever you have, you know how it is, you have the lines of communication open and you know what's going on, then you can understand what we're doing here and there, and everything's fine.
But everything isn't fine on the Eagles' offensive line, where they will start 2 inexperienced tackles, Jermaine Mayberry and Troy Drake. Ty Detmer will have to make some adjustments in this game.
There are ways to get rid of the ball quickly, you know, move people around, put people in positions to help, that type of thing. So I think this style of offense, the ball comes out fairly quick.
The Giants open the season with 10 rookies on their roster. 5 will start. Well, you may want to make that 6. Jim Fossil is a rookie head coach.
I'm a little nervous as a group that there's that many of them. Individually, I like the group because they've shown me an ability to be a little more mature for some reason than the normal rookie. They're all very bright guys, so they're not prone to as many mistakes as I think a rookie would make.
Everything we need to know we have down, and you know, we're ready to step in just like as if we were vets, and you know, make a difference on this team.
If they're good football players, it doesn't matter if they're rookies or 20-year veterans. You know, I mean, if they're a good football player, you play them.
They deserve the right to play. They went out and outperformed some of the other guys and created some electricity on our offense that we've lacked in the past, and they're going to be a good addition for us.
Finally, a couple of very important injury notes for the Eagles. Wide receiver Christy Jones is out with a sore knee. Michael Timpson gets the start. Linebacker Darren Smith is out with a sore ankle. Ray Farmer gets the nod. And Joe, at the right cornerback spot, Bobby Taylor will not start, but he will see extensive action on the Eagles' nickel packages.
Well, Jaws, I'll tell you one guy who's going to get extensive scrutiny, and that's going to be Dave Brown. This is a make-or-break game for him, as well as the season. Jim Fossil has come in and put in a system where he basically will be able to throw the football when he wants to, not when he has to, which was one of his big complaints last year. 20 interceptions, 12 touchdowns, the worst interception-to-touchdown ratio in the league last year, just 55% completion. He's already done better in preseason. He's completed 58% of his passes, and I think that Fossil's going to help him. I believe this is the year that Dave Brown will be able to break out and prove that he can quarterback the Giants.
Well, he ought to. I don't know that the relationship will be quite Holmgren and Favre, but they can always dream. And speaking of whom, isn't it about time that we talk about the defending champion quarterback? Yes, it is. And who better than Brett Favre? Who's been better than him the last 2 years? Answer, no one. The Pack start at the head of the pack. Number 4 good enough to lead them to number 2. Pack beat back a game Patriots team in Super Bowl 31. This time Drew Bledsoe is back without Bill Parcells. Who's been better defensively than Bruce Smith? Armed with a new contract, he and the Bills get defensive. When it said the Bills will cave in this season. Troy Aikman was sick over last year in Dallas. He had the owner's ear, but clears the air.
It's important that my teammates understand that I did not pick David LaFleur, because I didn't. It's important for them to understand that I don't make cuts for this football team. I don't decide who makes this football team and who doesn't make this football team.
The same old group of professors, armed with more info than ever. Well, Mort, it's Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they didn't win last year. This just in. It's not that they didn't win. It's the way they didn't win. And You know, Troy Aikman takes those 3 Super Bowl rings pretty seriously.
You know, Boom, and I joked with Troy Aikman the other day that being quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys is kind of like being president of the United States, on the NFL map anyway. When Aikman speaks, people come to attention. They better at least in cowboy country.
I'd rather be on a team that goes 8-8, but yet does it in the right way, and you've got everyone committed and working towards a common goal, and you can look at everybody at the end of the year eye to eye and know that they gave everything they had to be successful. And if that's not here, then I will not want to continue to play here.
The Cowboys' turbulent season had just ended, and Troy Aikman was frustrated. Distractions off the field had led to disappointment on it. He questioned the team's commitment and their focus. Aikman spoke out, but the one thing he did not do was abandon ship.
I feel that the steps were taken in order to try to right the ship. And quite frankly, that's why I'm sitting here today, is because it was important to me that we change the course that we were headed, and that we start trying to do things, you know, you want to do things the right way, but more importantly for us to get concentrated back on the things that this organization used to be focused on, and that is football.
And you just admitted that you may not be sitting here if things hadn't been changed. Is that true?
That is true. I gave it serious consideration because I'm not interested in just going out and going through the motions. If we're not an organization or a team that is committed to doing everything that we can to be competitive, then I don't want to be a part of it.
Aikman further expressed his frustration with Michael Irvin when Irvin's delayed decision about his future caused him to miss the Cowboys quarterback camp. Once again, that was Troy speaking up, and everybody took notice of that. Why did you say what you said?
I just felt that it was, you know, people have asked me about that, and they've asked me if I'm being more vocal this year. And I'm doing, like I have in previous years, I'm just doing whatever I feel needs to be done in order for us to be successful. And if that this year means being more vocal in certain situations, then that's what I'm doing. But I don't calculate the things that I do. But if Michael had called me up and said, I'm going to be happier not playing ball, I'm going to retire, I would have wished him the best and said, hey, you know, that's great. If that's what's going to make you happy, you do that. But just the fact that he was unwilling to make a decision at that time, it was hurting the football team. And that's why I thought it was selfish on Michael's part. I've told him that. I mean, we've talked about it. I have a great relationship with Michael Irvin.
At Jerry Jones' request, Aikman evaluated and worked out talent prior to the draft. So when the Cowboys selected tight end David LaFleur, the word was that he was Troy's personal choice. Aikman says his role was blown out of proportion.
It's important that my teammates understand that I did not pick David LaFleur, because I didn't. It's important for them to understand that I don't make cuts for this football team. I don't decide who makes this football team, who doesn't make this football team. I think they know where I'm coming from, in that I'm not on some power trip and trying to take advantage of a situation that I'm in right now. But also, I think they also understand that I'm not out here with a one-year contract who may be playing for the Washington Redskins next year or the Dolphins or something like that. I'm a guy who's going to be here for the next 6 years.
I think Troy senses that he's about to have a very big season, not just with Michael Irvin. He's comfortable with the tight end situations and the other receiver spot. I think the biggest question mark for the Cowboys going into the season might be Emmitt Smith. He's coming off ankle surgery. He did not run the ball a lot in preseason. Let's see how he runs it today against the Steelers.
I don't really think so, Mort. I think Emmitt took a lot of the preseason off simply because he's Emmitt Smith. He knows what his body can take. He knows the pounding that it has taken. So he's getting himself ready for the year. That's being smart. As far as Troy Aikman goes, he's got to feel great when you look at the last 3 years. 2 years ago, Emmitt Smith wasn't there in the beginning of the season, didn't practice during the preseason. Last year, he's without Michael Irvin. 2 of the 3 big guns in Dallas's offense wasn't around. Jay Novacek, nowhere to be found last year. A new Eric Bjornsson. This year, he's got the tight end, he's got the wide receiver, he's got the running back. Tommy, he's just got to be feeling real good about life.
Yeah, you know the key for both Troy and Emmitt is going to be the offensive line. Today, as an example, the Pittsburgh Steelers will key that blitz package from Greg Lloyd and Carnell Lake off the right side of that Pittsburgh line. Puts a lot of pressure on Tua Nate and Nate Newton to do a good job not only of run blocking, but follow that up with play-action pass blocking and then pass pro protection for Troy Aikman. And both of those guys not 100% today.
You know what, Tommy? The biggest question last year was Michael Irvin. I think that's the no question this year. I think
right,
Michael had a huge year without a question. Mark it down. All right?
I did.
On Monday night, football's oldest rivalry is renewed for the 154th time. What feeling is for you, Tom? The Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers. Monday night on the not yet frozen tundra. The Pack have won 18 straight at Lambeau Field. They've won 6 straight against the Bears to the tune of 284. Then there's this Brett Favre guy. And we told you already, over the last 2 regular and postseasons, 90 touchdown passes, 9,700 yards passing, and you have one of the most amazing back-to-back seasons by anyone ever. How can he top this? By the Cajun fire in his own belly.
I go into every season somewhat doubting myself, and I think it's my way of challenging myself in that I go, well, I don't know if you can do what you did last year. I don't know if you can perform on that level. I don't know what Troy and Steve and John and Dan and all those guys are doing, but I want to make sure I'm doing more than they are.
Got more than now. That's scary for the rest of the league. We, of course, will feature Brett Favre extensively on Prime Monday, Backstage, et cetera, et cetera. That's tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern. Well, last year, Sterling, the Pack scored more points than anybody else. They allowed fewer than anyone else, which might mean they won the Super Bowl. Do they improve on this? Same thing this year?
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see, Chris, because they scored more points last year because Dorsey Levens, as the backup, scored 10 touchdowns. Now he's the starter. The question is, can the guy, the number 2 guy replacing Dorsey Levens, number 2 guy, can he have that same type production? Also, Sean Jones did a great job holding down the right side of the defense because when Leroy Butler usually blitzed, he came from the left side with Reggie White. Can Gabe Wilkins as a starter be as productive, and can the guy in Gabe Wilkins' position last year be there as effective in the backup roles? I think also, let's not forget what Desmond Howard did. He got on a run that probably will never be duplicated. Can the 2 guys who get that job be as adequate or be close to what Desmond Howard was?
Now, those are questions, but Mike Holmgren says he really likes the way they look this year, even compared to last year. We'll see. They kick it off on Monday night. Well, the defending AFC champion, New England Patriots, are about to start life AB after Bill. At home against the San Diego Chargers, a team they've beaten 8 straight times, including 45-7 last year in a Sunday night game at the Murph. Pete Carroll inherits a team that knows how to win and a quarterback, Drew Bledsoe, eager to prove he can be even better without his ex-head coach. Bledsoe will not have to worry about Junior Seau, whose knee acted up, didn't even make the trip. Let's speed on up to Foxborough for the latest with Sal Palantonio.
Thanks, Chris. You didn't think I would miss week 1, did you? Especially here in New England, where all summer long it's been Bill Parcells did this and Bill Parcells did that. And as you might imagine, the Patriots are very tired of hearing about their former head coach and ready to get on with the business of defending their AFC title.
We have to go out and show everybody that we are class of the AFC and do our best to win the Super Bowl. And
with or without Bill Parcells?
With or without Bill. They feel they've got a lot to prove, that they won because of their ability, not because of their coach.
They feel like they have something to prove, and whether it's, it's fueled by that or it's the fact that they want to win the Super Bowl after being so close, it doesn't really matter.
The only motivation that I think we have as a team is to get back to where, get back to the Super Bowl and win it this time. So that's my motivation, is getting back and, mending my broken heart.
Gone with Parcells is his read and react defense. Carroll wants to take advantage of the small, speedy front 7 he's inherited and give them the freedom to make adjustments on the fly.
It's a smarter defense and attacking defense. It's more get upfield, more blitzes, and you have to keep your ears open at all times because you might get a call that you need to hear.
What we did in the past was simplistic in form, but we were very effective at it because we knew exactly what we had to do. And in this, there's a lot of moving parts. And with this new defense, you can make a lot of big plays, but conversely, you can also give up a lot of big plays.
It'll be tough to expect big plays from the Chargers' running game. Running back Gary Brown will start, but he's still bothered by that sore ankle. And Carwell Gardner, the fullback, is out. By the way, Mort, Willie McGinnis is still bothered by that sore hamstring, and he's a game-time decision.
Well, let's look at Drew Bledsoe for a minute. He made it quite clear in the offseason. He's glad Bill Parcells is gone. You know what I think? I think Drew Bledsoe gets a little sloppy without Bill Parcells around.
That might be the case, but the biggest concern for me is definitely going to be what is going to happen to that defense. These poor guys are put in a third different defensive scheme for the 3rd year in a row. You heard the middle linebacker talk about the fact that communication is so important. You're right. There may be some big plays, and that's going to be a problem for him.
Well, new era, a little bit, Joe, in New England. New era definitely in Buffalo as well, where The Bills will open without Jim Kelly at quarterback for the first time since 1985. You remember Vince Ferragamo started that season. Todd Collins gets the start for 72 years young head coach Marv Levy, and he won't have Kent Hull to snap him the ball either. But as the Bills host Minnesota with Brad Johnson, a quarterback in the battle of two wildcard teams from a year ago, Collins knows he has Bruce Smith and an awfully stout defense. Did I say stout? Wrong Steeler quarterback. Here's our Steeler quarterback, Mark Malone.
All right, thanks, Boomer. Bruce Smith's agent, Lee Steinberg, told me last night that Smith has agreed to the current contract terms that the Bills have placed on the table. Both Smith and Steinberg arrived earlier this morning here at Rich Stadium in an attempt to meet with owner Ralph Wilson to finalize the deal. Smith confessed to me yesterday that without a new contract, his head wouldn't entirely be in this ball game.
Naturally, it can't help but be a distraction in my mind. I'm just going to try and do my best not to let that distraction funnel down to the rest of my teammates.
Beyond the contract, Smith and his defensive teammates must focus on a Minnesota offense that once again has a healthy Robert Smith at running back, along with an offensive line that throws over 1,800 pounds at a defense.
I can see him coming out trying to establish the run and get us biting up on the play-action fake and then throwing it to, their two good wide receivers.
They're going to run the ball. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a ground game, but when you have receivers like Jay Creed and Chris Carter, that ball's going to be thrown up in the air. So I feel confident, with both parts of our game.
We're going to make some big plays down the field and realizing that the one thing that they don't have an explosive offense.
Playing to its dominant defense, Buffalo has disarmed the K-gun. In its place, new offensive coordinator Dan Henning has installed a more conservative scheme for first-year starter Todd Collins.
Yes, we might have a great defense, and that might change our approach a little bit in protecting the football and, when to take chances.
I think it'd be foolish to do anything but to play a conservative, look for the good spots, and hit it.
If we can go out and stop them from running the ball, we can definitely turn it into a passing game.
That's what you'd love to have with a young quarterback, wouldn't you?
Oh, yes, we will. It would.
And if the Bills are forced to pass, there's one question they need to ask on every play.
Where is Randall?
I'm right here.
If you single block Randall all day, you'll lose.
He won't have any trouble finding you?
No, he won't. I have a big number, 93, right there on my chest, baby. Right there.
With a suspect offensive line and Dusty Ziegler replacing the perennial Pro Bowl center Kent Hull, Sterling, this has the potential of being a very long day for Todd Collins. Mark, I think that they will have a problem finding John Randall because Dan Henning, as the offensive coordinator, Todd Collins will be the most confident quarterback in the league because Dan Henning is going to protect him. Max protect 1 and 2 guys out in the route. That way, it's scary to be protected by your offensive coordinator and play calling.
Well, and the defense is going to help him out a lot, too. They will be great this year. You get a healthy Henry Jones back in the safety spot. The 1995 Defensive Player of the Year, Bryce Pop, back at 100%, and a happy Bruce Smith, something we did not see last year.
Well, if they're gonna win games, they're gonna do it in the teens. They know that. And by the way, Randall, backup quarterback, might be punting today because Mitch Berger is inactive, and Randall may be the punter of the place kicker Greg Davis for Minnesota. Well, it is hard to believe that the Jacksonville Jaguars, once upon a time, were 4-7 last year, but after 5 regular season wins and a Sherman-like march through Buffalo and Denver in the playoffs, they could have beaten New England in the title game. They could have made it to the Super Bowl. They start this year's march in Baltimore without their general, Mark Brunell, but till mid-October. Instead, it's Rob Johnson. He's only thrown 7 NFL passes, but preseason, pretty good, 74%. The Ravens, quote, the better defense with Peter Boulware. The Ravens-Browns conglomerate 0-4 lifetime against the Jaguars on Nitro. The other title game expansion entry, the 12-4 Carolina Panthers, had a preseason the opposite of the Jags. Jacksonville was 4-0. The Panthers went 0-4. They lost quarterback Kerry Collins. The problem stopping the run, among other things. They host Washington, won an undefeated preseason until wide receiver Michael Westbrook slugged a teammate at practice. The Skins may be punch drunk anyway. They're playing their 5th straight road game as they wait for their new stadium to be finished built. The Panthers last year, 9-0 in their new Diggs Erickson Stadium. Plenty to come. The bionic Bronco, not Tom Jackson, but John Elway. You can knock him down. Now he bounces back better than ever. We will explain. By George, the Silver and Black have pinned their hopes on Jeff. The Raider vertical game back will detail all the quarterback changes. Jerry Rice, back with a vengeance. He can catch passes from anyone, as Tom will prove. From TV back to the sideline. Mike Dick hit Dick Vermeil exchanged microphones for headsets. Their story next.
know, I've spent years trying to create the perfect club. And yet, with all that's in my garage, the finest example of craftsmanship isn't only on my shelf. It's on my car. Cooper Tires. The one place where performance is more important than on the golf course is on the road. Cooper Tires. Drive on.
Hi, you got any of these? Ooh, will this leather case fit my cell phone? It's not from Radio Shack.
Yes, it will.
Perfect. What about a long life battery? A car adapter? A universal remote? Cordless computer mouse? An AC adapter for this? Wow, you got wireless speakers, dual headphones.
Whatever you've got, wherever you got it, Radio Shack's got over 10,000 accessories to help it work better.
Oh, yeah. Got any connectors?
Parts, too.
Great.
Radio Shack. You've got questions, we've got answers.
Hey, Coach, you ready to play today? I-24. I-24. Oh, 73. Oh, 73.
This is it.
I-16. I-16. Bingo! Bingo! I won! I got bingo!
That's real.
Logo Athletic, authentic team apparel.
Ready for the next game?
Welcome back to NFL Countdown. Mark Malone has just learned in the last minute, conference with Lee Steinberg, Bruce Smith's agent. I hope they get cable in the Buffalo locker room, because Bruce doesn't know this yet. Congratulations, Bruce Smith. You have a new deal. $6 million up front, 6-year deal worth $28.2 million. Bruce, let us tell you, I think you can play and, pick up dinner tonight for the guys. Well, that was then. This was now. ABC against NBC. Dick Vermeil steps back into the future as head coach of the St. Louis Rams against Mike Ditka of the New Orleans Saints. Call it a time warp, but don't call it not exciting. Fans in both towns, not to mention players on both teams, are hepped up for the opener in St. Louis. Our Andrea Kramer fans the Flames.
Scripture tells you that all things shall pass. This too shall pass. With a break, I think I can regroup and regenerate the enthusiasm and the energy that it takes to do it my way.
When I left, as you know, I was sort of an emotional wreck and sort of worn down from a number of years, just not the National Football League, but carrying my personality through 25 years of coaching. And I was worn out, so I left, and I was never really pleased with that.
The only thing that ever bothered me was that I left football that way. I would rather...
What's that way?
Well, by being let go. I mean, it wasn't like I didn't have a good record, I didn't have any success, that I wasn't popular, but all those things didn't matter. And that kind of hurt in that sense.
Vermeil's exodus from the game lasted 14 years. Ditka took a 4-year hiatus. But for each man, the business of television could not fill the void left by coaching and competition.
Finish. Everything you do, you finish. You win.
I had to come back to prove to myself that I could once again do it, and I could do it better. I didn't come back to do it as well as I did in the past because it wasn't good enough in the past.
I didn't really have any goals. I lost a lot of my motivation, my goals, and my purpose.
Each man epitomized intensity, which contributed to Ditka's heart attack and Vermeil's burnout. Each man says he's learned how to pace himself, how to delegate, how to cope.
He still gets mad, like all of us do, but he drops it.
It's too early to...
Before, I think he would allow it to carry on, and it would eat at him. I got so wrapped up in the importance of what I was doing and who I was. Never again.
But he said he's going to manage and control himself better.
Coach Vermeil, have he mellowed out? I would say not. I think still intense.
Whoa, that's it, Robert! Woo! Who's that defensive lineman?
I used to thrive on stress, and I would challenge it. Now I manage it, and now I delegate it.
Late hours, late meetings, staying up till 4 o'clock at night, sleeping here at the office, those kind of things that killed him in the past.
I have not slept in my office, and I don't plan to.
Vermeil recently gave his staff the night off, but when asked when he would take some time off, he didn't have an answer. It's that type of behavior that concerns the Rams front office, and they're worried about how hard he'll push himself if the team gets off to a losing start.
Well, you know, I appreciate people that are concerned, but maybe they haven't been around enough people that know what it takes to win.
Both men say they are rejuvenated by their return, but there have been hurdles.
My biggest problem has come in second-guessing my own leadership skills right now, and second-guessing my own knowledge, again, of being a head football coach. You forget that there's a physical tiredness that comes, but I think the mental thing is the thing that bothers me. I'm mentally tired. Plus, I do have a very full schedule. I kind of amazes me that I get into this.
Welcome to another edition of Ditka Live. You need a big shot? I got your big shot right here.
Every time I turn on the TV, there's Mike.
Soothing and Mike Ditka. Now, who would have thought? Every time I turn the darn TV on, you're on.
So don't forget to join us here on the next Ditka Live.
Vermeil has no TV show, and the only endorsement he does is back in Philadelphia. Unlike Ditka, he has few other outlets besides his daily rigorous workouts. One thing that has not changed is Vermeil's loyal, emotional nature.
I sometimes show my emotion. If that's a weakness, then I've got some weak areas.
Sometimes it almost looks fake because he sometimes gets emotional at not even the opportune time.
He got choked up a couple of times, and, you know, at first it made everyone feel kind of uneasy, but, you know, we're getting used to it. But, you know, he has a lot of feelings. You know, he's a sensitive coach, but, you know, that's okay. It's all right to be sensitive in the 90s.
You don't change people. You don't change Dick Vermeil. You don't change Mike Ditka. But Mike Ditka and Dick Vermeil can better learn to control themselves. Once you learn to ride a bicycle, you really don't forget how. He didn't forget how. And what he did forget, he was going to come back to him like that. And the same with me. I didn't forget. But I think I learned a better way to ride a bicycle.
They learn, but more have they changed, really?
Who wants them to change? I think that's a
agree.
laugh. Of course they're going to be the same. Mike Ditka says that the Saints are going to learn how to run the football before they ever pass it. You can count on that. And Dick Vermeil, yeah, he let up. You know, on Wednesday and Thursday, he had practices that lasted 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's about an hour more than the norm. One other note on the Rams. Orlando Pace, their top draft pick, who signed late. Look for him to enter the game in about the second quarter today, and I think he'll stay there to about, how's the year 2012?
You're 25-25. That's when your deal runs out, isn't it? Isaac Bruce, by the way, game-time decision in that game. It's a new start for the Big Tuna, who begins in the land of the salmon. Bill Parcells, off an undefeated preseason with the young and restless New York Football Jets, hopes to follow previous blueprints when he opens in Seattle. His fourth year at the Giants, Super Bowl. Fourth year at the Patriots, Super Bowl. Fourth year at the Jets. Even though the Jets were 4-28 under Rich Kotite, one of the wins was at the Kingdom. But the Seahawks are thinking playoffs. They got a new owner, better computers. They've got two number one stud picks in Sean Springs and Walter Jones, and defenders like Chad Brown and Benny Blade. Parcells, though, he'll take his chances.
These players have the same dreams and hopes as any team starting any football season. And, you know, it's always the same for me in the beginning of the year. You know, you're hopeful, and you know, this is the time of year where optimism runs high for everyone.
Yeah, undefeated preseason for the Jets. Joey Galloway, by the way, will run in the pregame. That's a late decision if he goes for the Seahawks. Dan Reeves isn't in New York, but he's not far away. He tries to bring some semblance of order in 3-13 Atlanta. Out go the run and shoot and Jeff George. In come Chris Chandler at quarterback. Well, looks like a big season.
You're right, JB. All right, TB. Still ahead on the show, folks. Two successful coaches, Mike Ditka and Dick Vermeil, return to the NFL. Is the fire still there? Also, Deion Sanders. How will he mix his new off-the-field attitude with his prime time
in the backfield? Biggest AFC game today, Chiefs at Broncos. Two teams who can share stories, Tom, about 13-3 seasons, home field advantage in the playoffs, and first-round exits the last two seasons. Kansas City never got over it. They missed the playoffs last season for the first time in the 90s. Now Denver, 13-3 last year, tries to avoid a similar fate. They have fate on their side, not to mention former Chief Neil Smith. Mile High Stadium has been Marty Schottenheimer's house of horrors. He's 2-8 there, staring fate in the face, undaunted as ever. Our own Mike Golick.
Thanks, Chris. In Denver, all of the attention has been on the injured bicep of quarterback John Elway. But former Chief Neil Smith could have just as big an impact. The entire Bronco offense is happy that, for a change, the 270-pound defensive end won't be lining up against them.
Feels real good because I knew going into the ball game I was going to have to have my head on a swivel because Neil was kind of got. But very difficult to block. He's going to be very inspired because I think he has a lot to prove. He wants to show everybody that he wasn't washed up and that they gave up on him too early.
Smith matches up against right tackle Crizell Jenkins. Now, these two have a bit of a history that dates back to an altercation in practice in December of 1995 when Jenkins chop-blocked Smith in the back.
It really hurt me. I think I'll never forget. And, you know, I'm not a cheap shot artist, but, you know, I'm not going to tolerate that foolishness anymore.
Jenkins is one of 12 new starters for the Chiefs, including 7 on offense. Now, this new lineup brings a new style of attack.
We've gone more to the eye. We put more plays in to get me one-on-one with some linebackers, get me around the corner a couple of times, catching a little bit more passes out of the backfield.
We're trying to score more points, and to do that, our view, you're going to have to get some big chunks of yards. And now you can do that occasionally running the ball, but the passing game is the way to do that.
Is this a West Coast offense?
It is a little bit. Being from the West Coast, there was no running game.
The 5 new starters on defense could become 6 if Derek Thomas is unable to play. Thomas has a tricep injury that Coach Schottenheimer says could keep him on the sideline the entire game. But Tommy, if Thomas does play, the irony is that in passing situations, he'll be lining up in Neil Smith's old position.
Mike, the Broncos are well aware that Derek Thomas can cause some confusion in pass rush situations, but they plan to counter that with the power running game. Create some situations where it's 2nd and 3rd down and short and force him, Joe, to do the one thing they know he'd least like to do on a football field, and that's cover somebody man-to-man.
Defense has not been a problem for them. Offense is where the problem lied, and that's why they went out and got Elvis Gerback. Now, Elvis came in and said some things. Listen, I need some help around me. So what did Carl Peterson and Marty Schottenheimer do? They said, okay, fine. We'll go get Andre Rison. We'll go get Tony Gonzalez. We'll make things a little bit better for you. And that's exactly what they've done. This is going to be the first time that you're going to see a vertical passing game down the middle of the football field for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think this offense is finally going to live up to all the hype that they've had for so many years about the production of a, quote, West Coast offense.
One number Marty likes, he's won 7 straight openers. His last loss in an opening day game at Denver, 1989. Back to Denver in a moment, where we'll get our medical staff to attest that John Elway is getting younger after all these years. How can it be? Meanwhile, the Oilers have taken to the air Air McNair, and they've flown the coop to Tennessee. New start for Jeff Fisher and company. That story next.
Longer a receiver / scrambling quarterback. He no longer wants to be known as slash. He no longer wants to be considered just a scrambling quarterback.
They just will always say that he's a running quarterback, which in my heart, I feel I'm not. I feel I'm a pocket quarterback. But I just, when it's time for me to take off, I take off with authority.
It wasn't that I couldn't scramble. I could, but I learned the hard way what scrambling can do. Ironically, Stewart's preseason knee injury happened when he was in the pocket. Remember, it's his 3rd NFL season, but as a starter, he's a rookie.
How desperate do you want to prove to all the fans of the National Football League that Cordell Stewart is truly an NFL quarterback?
Honestly, I have nothing to prove to the fans, honestly. I've been announced as a starting quarterback. I have to prove to my players on the team that I'm capable of the team and doing whatever.
Wrote out some advice for him, from one Steeler quarterback to another.
Relax.
To learn skills.
You have 10 men to help you win. Be emotionally strong. TB.
You know what? It's good advice because it's simple advice.
Very simple.
And it works.
I wrote Cordell the letter because sometimes I can still hear the boos that rattled me so in my early years. Like all quarterbacks, the day will come when Cordell will get yanked.
Ever been booed?
Me?
Have you ever been booed?
I've never.
It's horrible.
I've been one time in the Nebraska game when we played at home.
College.
If you're a true fan through the thick and thin, the first thing they'll say is, that's all right, we'll get them next time. Because everybody in life...
The Dolphins take on the Colts, who, unlike Miami, were in the playoffs a year ago, but also, unlike Miami, appear to be headed south and not for a tropical vacation. Keep your eye on 3 Miami rookie defenders, defensive end Jason Taylor, linebacker Derek Rogers, and cornerback Sam Madison from Louisville. There you go. See? beginning of the season, he's not ready. Also in the 15th season, John Elway, who has always had a golden arm, but through the wonders of surgery, now has one that's 24-karat gold. Dr. Mike Golick assisted in the surgery and explains the procedure.
Chris, with all the new starting quarterbacks around the league today, Denver's backup, Jeff Lewis, was supposed to be among them. John Elway's torn bicep was supposed to make him miss the start of the season. But as Elway has done so many times in the past, he has defied all odds. John Elway has undergone 10 surgeries, and those are just the major injuries.
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. Right foot, 1 Morton's neuroma removal. Left knee, 5 arthroscopes. Right elbow, 1 removal of bursa sac. Right shoulder, 2 arthroscopes. Left shoulder, 1 arthroscope.
Those are the type of things that might affect me down the line, but I'm looking forward to this week and this weekend, and what happens down the line will happen down the line.
You know, a lot of the injuries he's had people don't know about because, you know, he's such a tough guy, and obviously you don't want to set him up to be further injured. I'll tell you what, my office is his office, let's put it that way.
After throwing nearly 7,000 passes in his 14-year NFL career, the 37-year-old Elway was diagnosed with further arm trouble this offseason.
He had an arthroscope in March. At that point, the doctors realized that probably 50% of the biceps tendon was frayed at that time, and it told him that there was a good chance that it was probably going to rupture.
Which it did, forcing Elway to leave the Broncos' preseason game against Miami.
It was the bicep tendon, which is the long head of the bicep that attaches up into the shoulder joint. Literally ruptured.
After having his bicep tendon removed, Elway not only returned faster than expected, he returned better than ever.
I've had a problem with the elbow and being able to straighten my arm, and actually each year it's kind of got a little more restrictive each year. And so with that tendon gone now, then you know, it's really increased the flexibility in the arm.
And the bicep, you know, flexes the arm itself, and when an athlete throws, you know, they're extending. If he was a baseball pitcher, it might bother him more.
As long as it doesn't affect my throwing motion, then I'm fine. And I never had much of a bicep anyway, so again, it gives me a little bicep, so my kids like it.
It looks like a peak.
Like a little peak, like a little Popeye deal.
What he has lost is probably about 10% in strength of that bicep, which in reality won't affect him because it isn't being utilized in throwing motion.
Can you straighten it out more? Is that
straighten it more, but I actually have more flexibility back here. So in the throwing motion, so when I'm back here,
like you needed,
they used to be back there. It was restrictive, and that's where it used to really hurt. So now I've got that, and it's freed me up there. So I mean, it's really made it a heck of a lot easier to throw.
The receiver's happy you can throw it even harder now, Adam?
Well, yeah, but I'm actually developing a little bit of touch. Believe it or not.
One quick note, John Elway has played his entire NFL career without an ACL in his knee, courtesy of a high school operation. Now, when Elway first came into the league, he told me he used to take about 4 months off at the end of every football season. But when former head coach Dan Reeves introduced Elway to his boyhood idol, Roger Staubach, Staubach talked about his rigorous off-season training program. And Sterling, from that point on, Elway has conditioned his body year-round. Now, that's why he's still bringing it in year number 15.
And, Mike, I tell you what, a conditioned athlete like Shannon Sharp will appreciate the fact that John has a little more zip on the ball because that's more catches. I think also what will help that Bronco offense is the fact that Rod Smith, and now they got Willie Green from Carolina, will get a chance to do more work on the outside, better technician. Also, boom, look for this. Kansas City may use James Hasty inside to cover tight end Shannon Sharp. You just still got to get the ball to 8 fold up.
Yes, you
Get
do.
the ball to 8 fold.
I used to have an ACL in my knee. Gone now. The last time the Raiders played the Oilers, it was Houston at Los Angeles. Today it's Oakland at Tennessee. And before we move on, a word about the loyal Houston fans. We're sorry your team has moved on. It's not the way to go. But what better foe to start in Memphis in the shadow of Graceland than the Raiders of Al Davis? Let's face it, Al kind of dresses in the same colors as the King without the sideburns and all the sequins. The bugle sound for the Raiders, as in new coach Joe Bugle. Let's go all the way to Memphis with Andrea Kramer.
Thanks a lot, Chris. The Oilers' relocation wasn't even finalized until July, which delayed the sale of tickets, so the Liberty Bowl is expected to be only half the debut of professional football today. The move to Tennessee, Nashville where they'll practice, Memphis where they'll play, has been a logistical nightmare. One problem? While the team will fly the 200 miles from Nashville to Memphis, Their families will be bused round trip, which has angered several players. Head coach Jeff Fisher will handle that complaint just as he's dealt with every aspect of his team's difficult transition.
I think Jeff is doing an excellent job of keeping guys focused on football and not all caught up in the hoopla with the transition from Houston to Tennessee.
One positive thing we have going for us and something to draw from is our road record the last 2 years. That's something our players enjoy going on the road, so we'll just add to that this year when we go to Memphis.
Keep in mind, the Oilers had an NFL best 6-2 road record last year. As for the Raiders, after 3 years in the run and shoot, Jeff George is still adjusting to a conventional offense, but he already seems to have chemistry with his go-to receiver, Tim Brown.
This guy, you know, I tell him all the time, well, okay, I'm a person out. Tim, run the route, I'm going to throw you the ball.
Timmy and I hit it off early, and if a play comes in and, I'm not real comfortable with it, and I look at Tim and I'll say, what do you want? And we'll go out there and have fun with it and make it work.
Houston will blitz anybody. In fact, they're probably blitzing getting on the plane. They'll be blitzing when they get off the plane.
By the way, Bugle meant Tennessee, not Houston. Of course, Memphis is famous for something completely different.
It's another business trip, but I am an Elvis fan, and thank you very much.
Chris, it's good to see a little levity from the quarterback who told me he's feeling a lot of anxiety about making his first regular season start in almost a year.
All right, Andrea, thank you. Enjoy the game. There is excitement in the Queen City. The Cincinnati Bengals, well, they're dreaming playoffs with their high-powered offense, their more active defense, and what they hope is better overall synergy. Cincinnati hosts Arizona, and they also have a pretty good clue about the Cardinals' playbook, thanks to their old starter and new backup, last year's Arizona quarterback, Boomer Esiason, a.k.a. the Boomer of Hill. Still to come, more quarterback changes and pitching changes in an American League game. That's what we're here for at NFL Countdown, to keep you honest. And we shall go back to Pittsburgh, where the Cowboys hope to rekindle that Super Bowl spirit.
Today, the book we're reviewing is the official NFL handbook from Miller Lite. Colin, let's start with you.
Well, Phil, there's no plot. Character development is conspicuously lacking, and there's nothing remotely poetic about the language. It's 33 pages of facts and numbers.
Interesting. Bob, how shall I put this? Okay, Bob, we've been discussing the official NFL handbook for Miller Lite. 18 million copies in print, available in 12 packs and cases of Miller Lite.
Just a little thank you to everyone who recently voted us #1 in customer loyalty. Hopefully, we didn't forget anyone. Gateway computers feature Intel Pentium processors. To find out why our customers are so loyal, just give us a call at 1-800-GATEWAY.
Housekeeping. Excuse me. Checking out?
Uh-huh.
We'll change the room.
Holiday Inn hotels are undergoing a $1 billion renovation to make every Holiday Inn as good as the best Holiday Inn.
Oh, you're back. Your toothbrush.
That means we're changing a lot more than the sheets. Holiday Inn, on the way.
Want to see a lot of college football? One plan. Get cloned. Get tickets and hit the road. Here's a better game plan.
ESPN game plan.
Every week, college football games from conferences you can't normally see. Sent right to you.
The ESPN game plan. It can't be duplicated.
Check Friday's USA Today for Saturday's game plan. And now get a second for only $5.
I was born active.
Welcome back to NFL Countdown. We'll say it just once this year. We're done with it. Barry Switzer and the Dallas Cowboys armed and loaded for another shot at the Super Bowl. They're in Pittsburgh today to begin their run. Let's go back to Leslie Visser.
Chris, you've all heard of the Steelers' new penny defense, but does anyone actually know what it is? Hey, even Bill Cowher says a penny isn't what it used to be.
Originally, we had only one defensive lineman out there. And so to come up with a way to get the right people on the field, we called it penny for one. Since then, we actually now have two defensive linemen, which is why no one can figure out why we call it penny.
The penny lineup in passing situations is a 3-2-6.
2 defensive linemen plus linebacker Jason Gilden on the line, with All-Pros Greg Lloyd and Levon Kirkland at linebacker and 6 defensive backs.
We can do a lot of things with it. We do a lot of disguise and a lot of walking around, so hopefully it'll be good for us.
It's a means by which to try to put some disruption into the passing game, create some confusion as to who's blocking who.
Sometimes it stunt away and causes a lot of problems for as guys getting down on blocks and being sure who to block as well. Causes a lot of confusion.
Look for the Steelers to throw a healthy dose of blitzes to disrupt short rhythm passers. Defensive coordinator Ernie Zampese, it doesn't matter what they call the new defense, the Cowboys still expect pressure up in the Pittsburgh linebacker. But Mort, how about a penny for your thoughts?
Well, how about the thoughts of the Cowboys coaching staff? They think this penny defense is exactly what they faced in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And Hudson Howell, the line coach of the Cowboys, says the offensive lineman, the problems it presents is that the Steelers have great athletes on defense. They're constantly moving. It's tough to put a helmet on them.
I'll tell you what I'm looking at today, Moore. I'm looking at the for both teams. Starting off for our Steelers. Every time they throw the football, they're going to throw as much as they can at Deion Sanders to make sure that he has baseball out of his system. And also, if you look at Michael Irvin, Billy Davis, very big receivers. Pittsburgh defensive back Chad Scott and Donnell Wolford may not be able to hold up under that kind of pressure because of the height and strength of these two teams.
They will challenge Deion. They like their receivers. And there's a block Tony Tolbert and the bus, Jerome Bettis, try and run on through. Well, talk about an audible at the line of scrimmage, guys. Just blink, and your favorite team is changing starting quarterbacks this season. Who better to lead us through the game plan than that venerable Dave Craig? After playing with just one team in the 80s, they've been all over the map in the 90s.
Down. Go. Hi, I'm Dave Craig. I played for 6 different teams in the 90s. Can you name them all?
Yeah, can I name what? Dave Craig, he was with the Seahawks first.
Oh, my God, this is embarrassing here.
Seattle.
I can't name one. You talking about 6?
I don't know. I think he might have been in Tampa. Nope, I never played in Tampa, but I did play in Seattle where John Freese is starting quarterback today. In all, there are 14 teams with different starting than last season's opener. It's funny how things work, isn't it? Like the way Kansas City's Week 1 quarterback has been an ex-49er for the last 5 years. Elvis Gerback joined Steve Bono and Joe Montana as ex-Niner Week 1 starters in KC. So, who was the last non-ex-49er to start the season opener for the Kansas City Chiefs?
If I had to guess, I'd say Dave Craig.
That's correct. Very good, Warren.
Who else was he with?
You mean there's more than that?
Why don't you help me out here?
I know he went to college.
Milton College, I know that part. Milton College may no longer exist, but I'm still an honorary member of Bristol University, the School of Football.
Who am I missing?
Detroit.
Oh, no, he was with the Lions.
He's on travel. I might be the most traveled quarterback in the 90s, but Steve Berline is a close second. Steve starts tonight for the Carolina Panthers. Kerry Collins would have been the starter, but a broken jaw prevents us from having a pair of Collins starting Week 1. Instead, we have one Collins, Todd starting for the retired Jim Kelly in Buffalo. But there are 2 Johnsons, Brad in Minnesota and Rob in Jacksonville. What about Norm Johnson?
I'm lost.
Actually, he's in Pittsburgh. Cordell Stewart is the 5th different opening day starter for the Steelers in the 90s. Arizona is still looking for quarterback stability. Ken Graham is the 4th quarterback to start Week 1 Cardinals in the last 4 years. Cardinals.
Oh, he's with the Cardinals. Did I say the Cardinals?
Is it Arizona? Is he back at Arizona? No. We played Arizona. He wasn't there.
My name's Dave Craig, Larry. I'm going to try to play quarterback for you guys.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. I hope you are.
Anybody else?
The Bears, another one? Did he play for the Bears?
How could anybody forget about Chicago?
He was with the Bears, yeah.
That's 5. 5 out of 6.
I don't even know who's he with now. I don't even know who's with now. That's bad, right?
Can you play with the Rams? Jeff George left Atlanta for Oakland. Chris Chandler is in Atlanta after leaving Houston. Houston left Houston for Tennessee, the 28th largest oil market in the Union. Steve McNair is the opening day starter there. The 3-13 Saints thought they'd get a quarterback from Tennessee. They did. Heath Schuler, who was drafted by Washington out of Tennessee in 1994. Those are just the starters. Think of the backups. That's right, the Tennessee Oilers, my 6th and possibly my final team of the 90s.
I don't know. I don't think it'll be a Gotta give Dave out there, huh? Way to go, David. Thank you. All right, guys, quickly. What's the best? All those moves that you described, what's the best move?
Elvis go back Kansas City because he's got a chance to be a starter.
I agree, because I think he's good enough to go to the Pro Bowl there.
Yeah. I think it's Cordell Stewart with that running game and the defensive package around him.
I love what Cordell Stewart offers Bill Cowher and company. Worst move.
Jeff George. Got to be Jeff George. Number 3, wearing the number Daryl LaMonica. You know what? I think he's going to be a bomb.
Well, if Jeff George is playing Rick Myers, he's going to be charting plays for Kramer on the sideline.
Cost him a #1 pick if he never plays. Best new marriage of new coach, new quarterback. That scenario.
Bobby Ross in Detroit with Scott Mitchell. Bobby Ross brings discipline and conditioning Mitchell never had.
Hey, is there any doubt down Jim Fox in New York? This is one of those mandatory jobs. The other thing is, too, is I look at the situation where now all of a sudden Steve McNair loses Jerry Rome, who I thought was a great teacher. Well, Joe, the flip side of that is that Jerry Rome goes so Tony Banks becomes the beneficiary of Jerry Rome's coaching.
All right.
I got one for you right
Come on.
here. I got one for you right here.
Give it up.
Marino better be Dan Marino. Johnson will go to Craig Erickson.
Go.
What? I told you. Come on, Mort.
Dan Marino is sick? Mort, take a powder. Here's a non-shocker. Jerry, he's good. He can make the shakiest of quarterbacks look good.
That's money right there, baby. That is money.
Their track records speak for themselves, Howie, no question about it. But in terms of talent, which coach has the opportunity to take us further?
I think St. Louis obviously has more talent at the skill positions and at quarterback right now. Mike Ditka will be a very physical, his team will be a physical team, a team that you know you're in a fight when the final bell sounds. I think Dick Vermeil has an opportunity to excel a little earlier, but Mike Ditka will turn things around.
Look, man, when you look at these coaches, the one thing that I could tell you that I like about these guys, fundamentals. I sat down with Dick Vermeil, and I said, man, what is it like? He says, look, Ronnie, we spend at least 10 minutes on fundamentals. When you think of fundamentals, for me as a person, I'm saying, well, number one, they're going to be great football players. They're going to be better football players. But more importantly, these guys are going to be better people.
You know, unfortunately for football players, we can't go back and fulfill our lives, our careers, because we left because of an injury. Coaches can, so in a way, kind of jealous about that. But when I look at both of these teams, they both bring the same thing. Discipline at the top, because every player wants to be disciplined. I don't care who you are. We'll bring that down to New Orleans. New Orleans football team with a new quarterback in Schuler and with a Danny Obranovich as the coordinator. And Obranovich also has Tom Moore there to help in case Obranovich now has to go back and do some teams. But this Saints team will start running the football. The last time they had a team to rush over 200 yards was the 7th game of Bears last year, and Ray Zellers had 174 of that. But it starts in front, running the football. Heath Schuler, don't be shocked, though, if Danny Werfel, who will make no money, is the quarterback the Saints eventually turn to and make it.
All right, to my experienced colleagues here in the NFL, quick quiz. Which team has the oldest coaching staff in the NFL? And I did get this right with no help. Oldest staff in the NFL? New Orleans Saints?
St. Louis.
St. Louis?
St. Louis.
Ooh, Scott Atkinson, our producer, I got him, stumped him. I'll tell you about it more. All right, folks, we're going to step aside. Take a look at it. Take a look at it. Folks, we're going to take a quick time out, let these guys regroup. They will chase me around the studio. We'll be back with more in a moment. In the meantime, take a look at the young gun of the Rams, quarterback Tony Banks. Back with more in a flash.
Popular fantasy games on the web.
Tell you what, Tommy, Jerry Rice has been playing fantasy football all by himself. But one more touchdown, he has 1,000 points? That's absurd. He is Superman.
Well, he had the lowest yards per catch average of his career. You combine that with a life-threatening illness to his wife, Jackie, and it was the toughest season of his life, even though he led the league in receptions. It's the reason, to the dismay of defenses around the NFL, this year Jerry Rice will be reborn. You've played now for a couple of head coaches, Walsh, Seifert, and Mariucci is very young. And I'm wondering what the response, your response personally, as well as the team response.
You know, when I first heard about George Seifert stepping down, Steve being the head coach, came as a big surprise to me because I feel like George, you know, he brought something special. He had so many winning seasons. And why would you step down? But then Steve, he called me up And the first thing he said to me, he said, "Jerry, how's your wife?" And I think that won my respect right from the start.
How close did you really come last year, combining all of the things that were happening, inclusive of the personal issues, to actually leaving this game?
I came very close. The game, for the first time in my career, it was not fun to me anymore. You know, I didn't have the attitude of going out, enjoying every second. I still wanted to do my job, but I just, you know, I didn't have the focus. I didn't have the intensity that I normally have when I take the football field. So it was very close, and I think with the new coaches coming in, it really inspired me, motivated me. The atmosphere is much different now.
After what happened last year, was it you who approached Steve with the fact that you thought you might like to do some things differently this year?
You know, he just approached me and told me that, well, Jerry, look, we're going to throw the ball downfield. You know, we're going to utilize you more deep downfield, and also we're going to throw the ball underneath.
Talk to me about the pounding that you took last year. I mean, obviously, a lot of us saw those shots.
Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. I'm not the type to complain, but last year really took a toll on me. I caught a lot of passes underneath. Those linebackers, you know, they knew the plays. They knew exactly what was coming, and all I could do is just try to defend myself in a way possible. You know, this year I think it's going to be more of that old 49er offense. You know, we're gonna make it exciting again. We're going to throw the ball downfield. We're still going to go underneath, but I think we're going to really stretch the defense and make those big plays.
Yeah, because I had the feeling you're never going to actually eliminate that slant pattern from your repertoire. Ready?
Hey, that's money right there, baby. That is money. My slant route, that's my #1 route, and I love running that one. You know, it takes a lot of heart to go inside, you know, with those linebackers and all those DBs, and you just try to make the catch and try to explode for 6.
If I ask Jerry Rice to focus on a number, what are you capable of in the course of a season?
120, 130 with ease. And the way I feel right now, I feel like I'm reborn all over again.
Sprinkled on.
Now it's time for the real bullet. This is the time of year that I love.
Tommy, I got to give you the nod there for some excellent passes. I didn't know you had that kind of arm. And now, this is another one of our new toys. This is our practice field. We're in the bubble. That's right. With Sterling and Tommy. Guys, what's new? Mariucci's offense is not new, but new wrinkles for Jerry Rice.
I think the protection boom is what you're talking about. And Jerry's favorite route, you talked about the slant route. Here's what you're going to be able to see. As Tom Jackson plays the linebacker, DBs are crowding Jerry inside, which makes his release down the line. So when he comes in on that slant route, that's what he's been getting. Watch for Steve Mariucci to do some real cute things, maybe versus the bump coverage. Get Jerry running vertical instead of horizontal.
And another misconception that he is a great natural athlete, and that's why he puts up the big numbers. He is also a product of preparation. He came in this year, and I know neither one of us know anything about him.
Thought about
he
that.
came in 5 days early to training camp. That's what makes him the greatest, the second greatest receiver of all time.
Early to training camp. What a thought. Having trouble making earlier to the set. Coming up after NFL Countdown, rev them up. Jeff Gordon tries to add the Southern 500 to his Daytona 500 and Coca-Cola 600 titles. If he does, it'll be worth $1 million. Drive him.
Sunday night, NFL. Not going anywhere for a while?
Great googly moogly.
Grab a Snickers.
You spell it.
Yeah.
Some people fear him.
What did you see?
As they fear the unknown.
Where's he now? What's he doing?
Others are drawn to him as they are drawn to the light.
Our life is connected. Just have to open your eyes.
Where he comes from, nobody knows, but our fate lies in his hands. No! The Visitor premieres Friday, September 19th.
Time now for the Erickson Countdown to kickoff. It's the New Orleans Saints and the St. Louis Rams. Each of these teams have turned to a fiery coach from the past to try and bring out the best in these two franchises. Joe Buck and Bill Moss have the call.
before. No, not on another network, but on another sideline. Today, he leads the Saints into St. Louis to take on a face you haven't seen for a while, Dick Vermeil. First time on the sideline since 1982. It's an NFC Western Division matchup, the New Orleans Saints and the St. Louis Rams. Hello, everybody. I'm Joe Buck, along with my partner, Bill Maas, and welcome to opening day here in 1997 for this NFL season. Bill Maas, I guess as these 11 head coaches pop up, different head coaches.
Good afternoon, Steve Levy, and our new member, Sean Gale, will give you the report. 7 Eastern Time, NFL Prime Time. Tommy, yours truly, and our newest member, Stuart Scott. Enjoy that one. We always do. Prime Monday, Mike, Joe, Sterling, Mort, Jaws, backstage, Brett Favre and Leslie Visser, as we get ready for the Packers hosting the Bears. That's tomorrow night on ESPN at 7:30. And then Monday Night Football, 9 from Lambeau Field, with Al and Frank and Dan and someone at halftime. The Southern 500 coming up next, but we have Super Bowl predictions in a moment.
Everybody knows the old rules of photography.
Give it up.
Green Bay and Jacksonville.
Green Bay, Denver.
Green Bay, Seattle. Broncos and the Pats. You're more predictable than me. San Francisco and Buffalo. I know you're shocked. Auto racing is next. We'll see you on primetime at 7. Thanks for watching NFL Countdown.
In sports.
Welcome back to NFL Prime Time. Will the Cowboys use their heads to recapture their dominance? Or will the Steelers get off on the right foot? Bledsoe and the Patriots are out to prove last year was no fluke. Parcells brings his winning ways back to New York. Can he do it with the Jets? In year 15, will Marino be calling in all the favors? In year 15, have the wonders of modern medicine made Elway better than ever? Is it a make or break year for Dave Brown? And can Steve Young survive another tough season? Ditka comes back from hibernation. Vermeil resurfaces after a 14-year drought. We'll show you all the hits and kicks. Don't give us a brush off. Get fired up. Week 1 of NFL Prime Time. We got band, we got all sorts of new colors, we got a new stadium, but it's NFL Prime Time. Hello once again, everybody. Welcome to the lid lifter of NFL Prime Time. I'm Chris Berman, along with my compatriot for 11 years, Tom Jackson. 11 years. And we needed some team speed. Let's face it, we were a little slow. Stuart Scott, we welcome to the fastest moving show we have.
Good to be here. It was a 4.5840, but that was a decade ago.
Tell you what, I still think you could beat the rest of us sitting up here. We'll have some fun. We got lots to show you. First off, let's get you caught up on the late games around the NFL. A final from the Great Northwest. Bill Parcells, I think he's instilled a little winning in the New York Jets. 41-3 over the Seattle Seahawks. The most points they've scored since '93 in a game. Took them 4 games to get that much last year. Neil O'Donnell, 5 touchdown passes in this one. Plenty to show you. 41-3. Game still going on, a good one. They had 2 barn burners last year. Jacksonville leads Baltimore 28-27 just with about 2 minutes to go. Deion Figures has just intercepted Vinny Testaverde. So the Jaguars have the ball. Rob Johnson left the game injured, then came back and threw a touchdown pass to Jimmy Smith with under 6 minutes to go to give him the lead. A final from the Big Sombrero. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, new uniforms and all. Jerry Rice hurt, Steve Young hurt, but came back. The Buccaneers win it 13-6 over the 49ers. And this is the final from Mile High Stadium. Marty Schottenheimer now 2-9 their lifetime as the Denver Broncos, a conservative attack They beat the Kansas City Chiefs by the count of 19-3, holding them to just over 70 yards in the first half. We begin week 1 of the National Football League, the only time it's ever started in the month of August. The Cardinals at the Bengals, and they're talking playoffs in Cincinnati. Why not? They have an outstanding, or certainly an exciting offense. Looks like a new-look defense. They play at Synergy Field, so they got good synergy. But the problem, they talk so much about the playoffs, maybe they forgot about today's foe, because for about 3 quarters, they were raising Arizona. Here we go. Arizona with Kent Graham at quarterback. Talking to his offensive coordinator, Dick Jamieson. First possession, and Kent Graham looks like Otto Graham. Rob Moore for 12 yards, and it's a face down.
Yeah, and Chrissy starts to find those creases in the zone over the middle here to Frank Sanders. Then he comes back again over the middle, working out of the shotgun. You see Rob Moore. And again, look at the zone drop. Look at the crease right there, and a good fire by Graham.
On this drive, Graham 4 for 4. Dick LeBeau's new-look defense having its problems. And then the Cards, 1st and 10 from the 17. Electric Leland McElroy. Look at Larry Self-Center. Get a block. 17 yards to the Cardinals lead 7-0. They're up 14-3. Jameson's offense on the move again. Centers. The great receiver. He bangs his way in. It's 21-3. Arizona with a big lead. But in the 4th quarter, Kajana Carter will play a key role this year if the Bengals don't go anywhere. It's now a 21-10 game with under 3 minutes to go. 2nd and 8, Jeff Blake to Kajana down the sidelines. Skirts the tackle. Look at him go. 35 yards inside the 15. Up in the stands, Kajana's mom, pleased, but wait a minute. She's down on the play. You know about the knee injury a year ago. Mom worried about it. Need not worry, because 3 plays later, Carter gets the block from Brian Mill, number 44. Touchdown, 21-16. Throwing the ball to mom. Give it to her. Come on. Big Tobin Club says, we got the lead. Let's try and seal this thing. With a minute 14 to go, the Cards try to run out the clock. Larry centers, fumbles. John Copeland falls on it. The Bengals have a shot. Minute 5 to go in regulation. They have no timeouts, remember. Jeff Blake against Vince Tobin goes to work in the air. Looks for Darnay Scott. Steps up, fires. Out of bounds at the 26-yard line. Less than a minute to go. Blake to Carl Slim Pickens. He's out right there, down at the 13-yard line. Consulate says, let's go. Keep the chains moving. 47 seconds left. Blake, Pickens. First down, they stop the clock. Centers, looks on. Oh, no. Oh, no. 38 seconds left. 3rd down. Touchdown to Pickens. It's a 24-21 lead. The Bengals dancing. 3 touchdowns in the 4th quarter. Cincinnati, the 3 quarters struggled, but they win it by the count of 24-21. Blake ends up throwing for 252 yards. And at the time of the question, the Bengals, was it a good sign, or do they have a long way to go? How do you read today's win for them?
Well, certainly a little lackadaisical early on in the ballgame, but I think that this is the way that the Bengals, at least early on this season, will win football games. It will be Blake throwing to Pickens and Scott and Tony McGee, and still waiting for Kajana Carter. He's improving every single week, getting back to that form a couple of years ago when they drafted him #1 in the draft. Defensively, because you get Dick LeBeau, you don't get that Pittsburgh Steelers defense. It's not as difficult to rush the pass route of that defense as it is to force the run, and I think we saw that early on in the game today, the Bengals having a problem stopping the run.
Well, an entertaining division, that AFC Central, and the Bengals, well, they get a little nervous, but they get the win for Bruce Coslet. They are 1-0. We got plenty to go. We have 11 new coaches. 2 of them faced off in the Lions-Falcons game. Bobby Ross has Herman Moore on his side. Could they throw to him? And the Cowboys and the Steelers in the headliner, although only for one team. Falcons at the Lions. Old faces in new places. Dan Reeves, well-dressed, now will coach Atlanta. Chris Chandler is QB. Bobby Ross played at the Chargers, now coaching Detroit. Watch this now. In the 1st quarter, illegal man downfield as the Falcons try to punt. Let's do it again. Now they try to punt at the Falcons with motion. Oh, Dan's stomach is churning. You know that, Tommy. They try a 3rd time. Well, this time the kicker gets rough. So, we'll try it another time. The 4th time. A charm? Motion on Atlanta. Josie Camillus is saying, are you guys kidding me? This is the 5th attempt to get off the same punt. This is what you get when you play football in August. Dan Igor Straczynski finally gets it off, and all that for a fair catch. Watch. 2nd quarter, 3-0 Falcons. Look at Dan. Scott Mitchell drops and finds Herman's Moore. A little underthrown, 43 yards, though. It's a touchdown, 7-3 Detroit.
Yeah, and what makes this catch is the height advantage that Herman Moore has over Ronnie Bradford at 5'10", Herman Moore 6'4". You get the grab.
Barry Sanders not really a factor, certainly in the first half. Biscuit, Cornelius Bennett brings him down. And in the second quarter, how many tackles does he have annually? Jesse Tuggle again in the middle of the action. 10 carries, 12 yards for Barry Sanders in the first half. More special teams problems coming up. Detroit's punter is John Jett and the Blackhearts. Blocked by